for taking your time out and to join this meet. I am Akash Deepthar. I am a contributor at Fedora project and the project lead at AstroSonic. We gather here for a cause which is much greater than any of us, that is to give back to open source. But in order to give back to open source, we need to know what exactly open source is in the first place, right? Or let's say the way it's called today, FOSS, Free and Open Source Software Initiative. So let us just say that you have this software which you are free to utilize in a way that you want with no limitations. Also, the very same software can be used. You can flip its code, study how it does what it does from inside out, and just add the freedom to change the way it works to your liking, and then you can just redistribute it. So these four freedoms, that is to utilize it the way you want, to flip and study it, and to make a custom version and redistribute it. These four freedoms constitute of what we call a free and open source software. And the very initiative which makes sure that these softwares, they stay and they keep developing, people are investing time, resources, money in them, is the free and open source software initiative. So this is just the start of it. This is like the tip of the iceberg, to say the least. But to get all these things, we need contributions, not just in the matter of money, but in the matter of code. So we all folks have gathered here because we have this one thing that is common in ourselves, that we are good at what we do. We are good at the technologies that we want to pursue. The openness of the code makes them transparent. The constant updates and the bug fixes make those softwares reliable. The liberty to make custom versions of it makes it inexpensive, and the communities like us, AstroSonic, make them collaborative. So we all have gathered over here to make sure that our contributions to the free and open source software community counts and is significant from the way we are. And it doesn't matter where you start from. It doesn't matter how old or how skillful you are. You just get to start, because every journey of 1,000 miles begins from one step. Well, could you please move on to the next slide? So this leads you to our community. We like to call it AstroSonic, because we start from where we are, and we are someone who provides a leading edge solution to open source and modern problems. We are basically just a bunch of students, if we say in simple English language. We just started just because we had so many projects that we did. There were so many projects that were just left behind just because we had something else to work on. But the ideas that we had to start with in the projects, they were so good. They had so much potential in them that we could not just leave them behind. So that is how we started here. We had half-complete projects, but this was our way of helping people in the way that we are good at. If we are good at coding, then that is how we would help the people. That is how we would help the community, right? So let's talk about what we want to work towards in the next slide. The vision that we have is the fact that we understand that each and every person has different perspective towards a problem statement. And these leads to different ways of problem. We understand that and we embrace it, because these differences are the things that has led to many creative solutions and implementations, and we think that it's beautiful. Also, we respect the fact that each and every person that reaches out to us for reasons like just wanting to contribute to community or just help solve issues in a project, and some might be as meager as just trying out our projects to see how good they perform. We are okay with everything. And we understand that not everybody has worked on the same things. There might be someone who is good at machine learning, and there might be someone who is not. And that's okay, because the person who is not good at machine learning might be good at something else. So irrespective of your age, skill level, or inclination to any specific subject, there's always something to work here at AstroSonic. We have projects ranging from various domains that we would like you to work into. And with that, we start with our own potential contribution to free and open source software community with one small pull request at one time. Moving on to the next slide, we'll talk about the open source, why you should prefer it, and the strength, weakness, and opportunity threat analysis of open source. Ankit, you can carry on.
Yeah, thanks Akashdeep. My name is Ankit Sinha and I am one of the contributors at AstroSonic. About me, I am a AI and ML enthusiast. Now, speaking about why to prefer open source, for properly understanding it, we should look at its strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Vaibhav, next slide, please. Yeah. So talking about the strengths of an open source project calls for collaboration from various developers all around the world. It can be anyone from the planet. Every single bit of code which is written is publicly available on the platform like GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbuckets. Now, everyone is allowed to contribute, download the source code, and make their changes, finding bugs, making the project more secure, and enhancing the features. Like that, open source allow to make a project which is transparent to all of us, and nearly 75% of companies use the open source code which is available on these platforms. Now, talking about the weakness, as project's code is online, it may happen that someone will find the bug. He may or may not report. So, if he is not reporting, it's weakness for us because we are not getting to know about the bug which exists in our project or the project we are contributing in. Now, this can also, as the code is online, many can exploit our project by different means, which can create a problem. We can face a problem when the product is on market or it's freely available to everyone. Sometimes open source projects are not being maintained uh, by the maintainers, or there is a lack of funds, and the lack of funds and the known bugs are not patched. This leads to vulnerability in the application that are put the users at risk. So as cool as open source sound, it does come with some problem. Also, open source are about solving the particular problem. Sometimes the project is not very intuitive and beginners might find it difficult to get us starting with a project and won't have a very good experience with it. So, as we talked about strength and weakness, but these are some generalized things about the open source. Now, what opportunity that we can exploit from this is, um, as I have said mentioned earlier before, that code of the project can be downloaded, so anyone can enhance it. It also promotes everyone to collaborate. That's one of the opportunities. Whenever it's your first time contributing, or whether you are an open source veteran, open source accepts contribution from everyone with open arms. One of the fascinating things about the open source that the community is always welcoming with warm hands. Uh, Even though you feel like you are new or you're odd one out from the group, but if you ask for help or um, um, what we say, lend your hand, others will help you to see what you can do or how you can contribute to the projects which you are interested in. Now, uh, one more opportunity for the open source is that collaborating with others improve your code style and make it more generalized that other can understand. It also helps you to improve your teamwork, even though you're not together or you're working remotely. So this was some opportunities, and also with a platform like Hacktoberfest, there are opportunities which encourages you to collaborate and be a part of open source, and also to get some cool swags like T-shirt from them. Now about the threats, as a beginner, open source might seem daunting, which we have been talking about, as the community is vast like an ocean, and you have to just dive into it. You don't know where to begin, and there is certain learning barrier to getting started. But we, as a community from AstroSonic, are here to help you to get rid of this threat or the fear of how to start. When you are managing a big project with hundreds of contributors, there are always a possibility that best practice may not be maintained, and that is not good for a project for a long run. So we have to have a regular one-to-one or a certain code of conduct for handling a project and to have a proper waypoint for leading a project to reduce that threat. Now, there are infragmenting issues and licensing stuff as well, which we are getting to know as we contribute. So you can have various license, and each license have their pros and cons. So selecting the right license or selecting the right code of conduct may feel overwhelming to you at first, but as time goes on, you may get acquainted to it. Now I would like Shivang to continue the rest of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Ankit. Hello, everybody. My name is Shivang Piswai. I am third year undergraduate at VSSUT Bulla, and I'm a contributor at the Open Code project. So, what is Hacktoberfest? Let's start with that.
Shivang, you
Hacktoberfest
might
is a
want to share your
month-long
camera.
celebration. Sure. Are you
Cool.
able to see
Yep.
me? Yeah, sure. So, Hacktoberfest is a month-long celebration of open source software, which began in 2013 and was started by the reputed cloud service provider DigitalOcean. Each year, they team up with a few other companies to conduct one of the world's largest events related to open source software. Hacktoberfest is open to everyone in our global community, whether you're a developer, student learning to code, content writer, event host, company of any size. You can drive growth of open source and make positive contributions to an ever-growing community. All backgrounds and skill levels are encouraged to compete in this challenge. The goal of Hacktoberfest was always to raise awareness about the initiative, but also to get everyone to support open source by contributing. To encourage contribution, Hacktoberfest gives out free swag for your contributions provided you reach or exceed a certain target in contributions. This year, you get a tea or a tree. So what are the rules? How do you earn this tea or tree? So to earn your Hacktoberfest 2020 tea or tree reward, you must register and make 4 valid pull requests between October 1st and 31st. The word valid is really important here. The PRs can be made to any public repo on GitHub, not only those that are issue labeled with Hacktoberfest. But if the label Hacktoberfest exists, you might get your rewards quicker. You might see your updates in the Hacktoberfest profile quicker. If you see, if a maintainer reports your PR as spam or against the project's code of conduct, you will be ineligible to participate. This year, the first 70,000 participants who successfully complete the challenge will be eligible to receive a prize. Make sure you read the participation details to learn how to earn your Hacktoberfest tea or tree reward. And next slide. How to get your swag, how to make your PRs count. So first, I would like you to browse through GitHub looking for projects made by the community. If you see a bug or an anomaly without an open issue for it, report it. Make sure there's an issue for it. And if you see an issue which is right up your alley, request to be assigned to it. Once you are assigned to an issue, and that is important, you must be assigned to it, fork the repo you wish to fix, and once you have it with yourself, get fixing. Use Git and the tools you use best to make clear and necessary changes to the project. We get sidetracked. Don't make any changes which are not relevant to the issues, as you might end up not allowing your PR to go through. Once you are happy with the commits you have made to your fork, push to origin, and the owners of the repo, if they are satisfied with your good work, will accept your pull request and close the issue. The next slide. How to make meaningful contributions. So report bugs, create issues, and help complete documentation. Any and every bit of help we can receive is 100% appreciated and welcome. The beauty of open source means you can take on challenges at any level. Make sure the issues or the PR you submit, the changes you make, or even the documentation you help create, make sure it's precise, clear, and bias-free. Language and collaboration is really important. And in open source, we stand upon the shoulders of those who came before us. So it is necessary that whatever whatever changes you make and whatever code you write, it is understandable by everybody who will come after you. Continue committing, requesting, and asking. Each commit you push is a milestone for the project. Let's conclude with the values of Hacktoberfest. So participants in Hacktoberfest represent 151 countries and thousands of unique skill sets. Everything from programming to content writing is welcome. This program welcomes everyone who is already part of the open source community and anyone who is interested in sectioning in it. Participation in Hacktoberfest leads to personal growth, professional opportunities, and community building. However, it all begins with meaningful contributions to open source software. That is really necessary. In the open source software community, we are standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, as I said before. And your participation has a lasting effect on people and technology long after October. This is a voyage and not a race. Now I'd like to hand it back to Akashdeep to continue telling you about AstroSonic and how you can help hack at AstroSonic.
Thank you so much, Shivang, for telling about Hacktoberfest and how effectively can people contribute to the notion of it, not just for the tea or tree, but for actually committing their contributions in the long run. That is really important. And we also briefly explored about how things can be done, how you can make issues, how you can fork a repository and make a pull request. These are the basics that you folks need to know in order to make your contributions count. So moving on to the projects that we have here, I believe this is the most important, most exciting part, because these are the projects that we have been doing so far. And there's nothing which makes me more happier than having you on board on this. So to start with, the first project that we have is Initiative. This is a project which deals with issue listing and DevOps lifecycle. So any issue that we have on the AstroSonic account and those of the neighboring accounts as well, the friendly ones are listed over here. So suppose you're looking for something to work on, but you don't want to go to GitHub and type in search for issues, all those boring filters and whatnot. Just log on to initiative.astrosonic.tech and you would find that the issues are listed here conveniently, and you may find that the issue that you would want to work on listed right up. This is just first of the 15 projects that we have here. The projects range from network security, DevOps lifecycle management like this one, system administration, synchronous editing, and front-end design. The next project that we have here is Sanctuary. Sanctuary was what we wrote to address the fact that many chatting platforms that we have here are not very secure. There have been questions on how protected the storage at WhatsApp or Telegram is, and are they really able to read our messages or not? And the very notion of end-to-end encryption was kind of denied. So with Sanctuary, what we are trying to do is bring you transient chat rooms in such a way that the logging is like 0 and there is transients. Now by 0 logging, what we mean is we are not even storing a single part of your conversations. Any conversation that you make in Sanctuary chat rooms, they get deleted the moment you log out. That means that if things don't get stored, they don't get vulnerabilized. So they don't get leaked out somewhere and there's nothing to worry about in the first place. That is what we mean by zero logging. Then we move on to transients. The total transients, in the other hand, would allow for covering your tracks at all the ends of the meeting in a very protected manner. Now, suppose if you're chatting with someone, a couple of friends of yours, about some topic you're not supposed to, let's say, and suppose they are compromised. Let's say that their parents walk in and they're in a state that they can't hide their chats, right? So, what would you do? Total transience does something which helps in that this scenario, especially. So you, from your computer, can erase the chats that you made and your friend made at their end as well. This is what we find very exciting and something that we might need in the coming times, right? So total transience ends up helping us in that scenario. The next thing that we come across is a third project called Sysmon. It's system monitoring, as you might have guessed as of now. It's built for remote system administration for headless Raspberry Pi setups and servers. It would help you monitor system performances with intuitive charts, tables, and whatnot. I mean, there's this synchronous timeout. Things get refreshed after every 1 second, so it is active. Better yet, you can also manage your tasks at ease. And there's this intuitive front end which makes sure that you get buttons for killing, suspending, resuming, terminating your tasks. It also gives me immense pleasure to let you know that Sysmon, this repository, has made news in Reddit and Tom's Hardware. The next repository that we have here, thanks for switching to the slide, Babab, thank you, is Sanctuary Zero, which brings the Sanctuary project that we talked about just now to a command line implementation. It has the same features like Sanctuary, but with Fornet cryptography standard for symmetric key cryptography, meaning that the cryptography of this is comparable to the advanced encryption standard, 128 bits. So the end-to-end encryption scenario is maintained over here. The server does not get to know what you are typing or what your friend who you're conversating with is typing. The asynchronicity of the execution in the command line implementation is something that steals the show. Now imagine doing multiple tasks in command line. It's not possible under normal circumstances. But with async.io, a Python module, it makes it a cakewalk. And not to mention that there's the support for IPv6. So if you host yourself a chat room server, you can ask your friend from across the globe if they have an IPv6 address to connect to you, and they would be able to do so because IPv6 does not require any kind of port forwarding in normal circumstances. This is very comparable to the point that if you know about IRCs, Internet Relay Chat, they are looked down upon for only one circumstance, that is, they are not very secure. With Sanctuary Zero, we might just address that fact. Sorry about that. The fifth project that we have here is called Syngraphias. It is created to put the synchronicity that we get with Google Drive and the non-intrusiveness that we get with Jupyter Lab into one single application where you can just collaborate, but in an unintrusive manner. What does it mean? Now, suppose there's this document that you want to work on. So you and your friend open up a Google document. But what happens? A change that you make might be, even if you don't want to, affected by the change somebody else does. So that is intrusive. Here, we try to make it just opposite while making sure that the collaboration features of Google Docs stay. Every change is actively synchronized, yes, and across all devices in real time, so you get what they do and they get to know what you do. With active logging of documents and frequent checkpointing, you can always roll back to a state where the document was some time ago. So if there's this mistake that you have done, but you don't know exactly when it happened, but you know that document was sure as hell correct some 10 seconds ago, just roll back and the document will be as correct as you thought 10 seconds ago. To cater the persistence of the documents, we introduced our own file format called SynGraph workspace document. And to top it all off, we have our own what you see is what you get, a WYSI editor, which makes things look the way you want them to look. So you don't have to just edit and then compile it in a way to see how it looks. You can simply just run the app, edit it the way you want, and the same way would be synchronized to other person as well. Even it looks good. Then we come to the project that is called Boot Blocks. It's the final sixth project, let's say the sixth feature project, because we have over 15 projects, exciting ones at best, that we would love you to work on. Boot Blocks is an inspiration taken from a similar such project called Tailblocks, which makes use of Tailwind CSS to create blocks that are ready to use. I mean, the project makes use of the Bootstrap 5, which is bleeding edge, which might come out anytime soon. And when I mean it, when I say it, I mean it, that you really don't need a single line experience of CSS when using boot blocks. This thing makes it so convenient for you that you can simply copy the stuff from the website that you see that, yes, this block looks cool to me. So I'll copy the stuff, the theme of it, I'll paste it on my website, and it works just the way you would want it to be. If a CSS framework like Bootstrap makes development convenient, then I'm sure as hell that Bootblocks would make the prototyping of it faster and snappier. Now note that this is just like 6 of the featured projects that I just talked about out of like over 15 of them. There's a lot to explore, and I think that in the chats you might be getting links to these projects. There are many issues to contribute, and better yet, if you see anything wrong, you can create your own as well. So now I would hand it over to Shivang, who would tell you about the ways you can reach out to us. Over to you, Shivang.
Thank you, Akash. And next slide, please. Yes, so these are our social links. We have a great community set up on Discord. You can join it right now at bit.ly/astrosonic-discord. All these have bit.ly links that are put on the chat. If you are joining the Discord, please make sure you read the rules and self-assign yourself roles. Feel free to ask any queries, as Vaibhav said, on the chats, or if you want to, you can use your mics. We have Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, Reddit community as well, which is up and coming. And you can follow these or you can join them to stay up to date with our updates and with our announcements. You can check out all our repositories on GitHub. The GitHub link is also provided. All of these have simple bit.ly links, bit.ly/astrosonic- and the respective service name. So Discord, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, or GitHub. And we'd really like you to come join us. I'll keep it short and simple. I'll hand it once again for a conclusion.
Cool. Thank you, Shivang. So before we conclude, we'd love to answer your questions if you have them. Ankit, you turned on your camera. Are you to conclude?
I'm not to conclude, but just for anyone who joined late, you can repeat or rewatch this entire meet on our YouTube channel, which is also put in the chat.
Thank you so much, Ankit. Yeah. So the YouTube channel, which I kind of forgot to put the QR code of, is available. So there are stuff that we have been doing so far, and there is this video that if you missed somehow or joined late, you can catch up to it. So you can find the link in the chat. So coming to the questions, if you are not feeling up to, to start the mic, to start the camera, it's okay, we understand. But the chat window is here. So if you want to ask questions, you're free to do so. This is the time.
I had one question.
Hi, Ryan. Yeah,
Hi,
proceed.
I had one question about what's the difference between passive members and active members? Because I was looking through your things, and I didn't want to assign myself a role because I just wanted to like do like as things come. So I just wanted to know what passive member means exactly.
Shivang, would you be able to answer that?
Okay. So if you are not assigning yourself a role on Discord, you won't be able to view all the chats and you will be able to see the first few chats, the welcome, the rules, and the announcements, but you won't be able to see the chats and the collaboration that is going on in all the other channels regarding development, regarding Hacktoberfest, and all the other good stuff. So I would really like you to the active thing is you have if you are focused on one essential domain or one essential thing that you're very good at, we recommend you take an active channel and assign yourself just one channel, one role actually, and you'll be essentially contributing your whole thing to that one division, the one team, one role. And if you are good at multiple stuff, choose multiple stuff. There's no stopping you, and don't think too much into it. It was just a we set it up as a fundamental thing. It doesn't apply really. It doesn't hinder you from applying anywhere or contributing in any other thing. But we would just like to keep everybody. We like to know everybody and what they are good at. So that's why we created the roles. Please do self-assign yourself roles then,
All right,
because without them you won't be able to see.
all right, cool, got it.